Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. I'm Efren.
And I'm Roslyn. Today we're going to be talking about election periods and otherwise known as enrollment periods. So let's get started. The four that we're going to talk about today are going to be your IEP, your AEP, SEP, and GEP. The reason we're going to talk about those is I often have people call in and ask me two questions. One is, how do I get enrolled? What is all this stuff? How does it work? And secondly, am I stuck in this plan once I have enrolled, or is there a time that I can make the changes to my plan if I decide that this is not the plan for me? So, Efren, what is an IEP?
Okay, so right out the gate, IEP is the Initial Enrollment Period, also known as IEP. It is the first time that a person is eligible to enroll into Original Medicare, which is Parts A and B. Once you are enrolled into Original Medicare Parts A and B, then you have the ability to enroll into additional programs. Your IEP starts 3 months before your birthday month. It includes the month of your birthday and 3 months afterwards. The way you enroll into Original Medicare during your IEP, you have couple different avenues. You can sign on to ssa.gov, which is a Social Security Administration website. You will need to create an account if you don't already have one.
Keep your passwords. You're going to need those.
Yes, write down everything they give you. It's imperative because they'll ask you the same code over and over again. So you sign on to ssa.gov. It's about a 20-minute process to enroll into Parts A and B. We volunteer that if folks need some help with that process, they could give us a call and make an appointment, and I can be on the phone with you while you're doing that if that helps. You can also make an appointment or go down to your local Social Security office without an appointment and wait in line, and they can enroll you while you sit there in front of them. IEP is generally the best time to enroll in Part A, which is hospital coverage, and Part B, which is doctor services. Once you're enrolled in Original Medicare Parts A and B, then you have the ability to enroll into Part C, which is Medicare Advantage, and you could also pick up a prescription drug plan, also known as Part D.
Okay, so when you turn 65 during your IEP, something that's incredibly important that you know is what is credible coverage. So credible coverage is when you have a health insurance plan that is similar or comparable to Medicare. During your IEP, if you have a plan currently with ACA, so that's the Affordable Care Act, COBRA, or a retirement health plan, those are not going to be considered credible coverage as far as when you're going down the road and you say, well, I chose not to enroll into Medicare A and B when I had the opportunity during IEP because I had credible coverage. Those will not apply. So for credible coverage, for you to be able to push that enrollment down the road, you are going to need an employee-sponsored health plan from your employer. Generally speaking, it's with 20 employees or more is going to make sure that they, as the employer, will be in first position. If they have less than 20 employees, then they are often going to have you put Medicare in first position. So if you're still working, that is going to be credible coverage. Again, if you're on a retirement plan, a COBRA, or the ACA, those are not going to qualify you. Now, if you do not sign up during your IEP and you choose to push it off, then you are going to incur penalties down the road.
Some of the most common questions people ask us when they first call in is they say, I have to enroll into Medicare and I want to avoid penalties. That's on everyone's mind. So we're going to talk about penalties and Part A right now. Part A is your hospital coverage in Original Medicare. Typically, as long as you have worked at least 40 quarters, which equals 10 years in the United States, you qualify for premium-free Part A. Of course, there are people who have not worked that much time and they do not qualify for the premium-free Part A, which means penalties will come into play if they don't enroll when they're initially eligible to enroll. Typically, a penalty for Part A is 10% penalty, and it's put on your premium, and that penalty will last twice the length of time that you went without Part A coverage. For example, if you hold off on enrolling in Part A. You don't have credible coverage elsewhere. A year later, you decide, you know what, I need to enroll into Medicare. So we go through the process. We join Original Medicare. Part A will have a 10% penalty for that year that you were gone. 2 years, that penalty will last. Twice the amount of time that you went without the coverage.
So in that same vein, if you did not enroll into Part B, you will also incur a Part B penalty. So most people are going to pay $174.70 a month for their Part B premiums. Your Part B premium is always going to be based upon your income. So if you are a higher income earner, which Medicare describes as $103,000 or higher, your premium will increase based on your income. The same is said for if you are a couple, it would be $206,000. That would consider you again into the higher income earning, and your premium will increase. So if you have a penalty on your Part B, what's going to happen is you're going to have a permanent 10% penalty in addition to whatever your premium is. So often, almost annually, your Part B premiums are increasing. So whatever that premium is going to be tacked on to that 10% penalty. And if you go 12 months without signing up for your Part B, it's a 10%. If you go 24 months, now it's going to be a 20%, and so on and so forth. So it can get pretty costly if you are not handling your enrollments in the time that is allotted to you, so you do not incur those penalties.
Next up is Part D, which is prescription drug plans. We're talking about penalties still. If you do not enroll into a prescription drug plan during your IEP when you were first eligible, and you do not have credible coverage elsewhere, if you ever get to a point where you need to pick up a prescription drug plan, maybe a year down the road, you're prescribed medication or such, and obviously you don't want to pay for it out of pocket, if you decide you want to sign up for a prescription drug plan, you'll have a 1% penalty on your premium for every month that you went without a prescription drug plan. Usually, the insurance companies will notify the client, letting you know if your premium is going to be higher and what the penalty will be.
So that brings us to credible coverage. If I do have credible coverage, I'm still working, or my spouse is still working, and I'm just not ready to pick up Medicare yet. So if I'm married and I'm staying at home and I'm a housewife, but Efren has been working and he has worked for, again, that 40 quarters or 10 years, then I, by default, get to use his work experience time, whatever you want to call it, in conjunction with mine. So I can say, I'm not ready to enroll in Medicare because I'm going to still stay on his insurance plan. That counts as credible coverage for both of us in that instance. So that would be the one time that it might be in your best interest to delay enrolling in Original Medicare or an Advantage or a prescription drug plan, because you already have that plan being covered from an employer-sponsored health plan. Again, we won't know that unless we talk about it. Sometimes it's in your best interest to keep that plan. Other times Medicare is going to be a better plan for you. But again, it's something to look at and know that you have that option.
Let's talk about Special Enrollment Period, also known as SEP. Special Enrollment Period are triggered. There's a number of ways that a Special Enrollment Period can be triggered by life events. The most common one is folks who had credible coverage or have credible coverage through an employer and chose not to join Medicare when they were first eligible because the credible coverage from their employer made more sense. Maybe it was less expensive than the Medicare Part B premium. Whatever the reasoning was, as long as they had credible coverage elsewhere, you can hold off and join in Medicare. Usually the plan is that I'm going to stay with my employer coverage until I'm ready to retire, a year or 2, 6 months down the road, whatever the case may be. At that time, we have to employ the special election period, and often the Social Security Department will ask when you put in your application to finally enroll in the Parts A and B, they will say, where have you been? We'll say, I had credible coverage through my employer. We can document that and show you that I have had credible coverage and everything is legitimate. when you are using the special enrollment period, in that case, when you're parting ways with your credible coverage from your employer, you have an 8-month window from the time that your employer coverage ends until you have to enroll in Medicare or miss that special enrollment period window. Most people coordinate that they want their Medicare to start the day after their employer coverage ends. Sometimes they even overlap it by a month, so they're double covered for a month to make sure that there is no period where we're not covered at all.
Yeah, no gaps covered.
Absolutely.
And the good thing is that even when you utilize that time period, you're not going to incur any late penalties because you did have that credible coverage. So that's a good way to utilize that.
Absolutely.
That time.
Absolutely. So you have the option. Most of the time, if you enroll in a Part A and B, your coverage will start during the special election period. Coverage will start the following month. You can coordinate with Social Security Administration, who handles this, to push it out 2 or 3 months or whatever the date is you're looking for. That can be done online or through a conversation with a Social Security representative. Okay. During this election period, when you're losing employer coverage and you're new to Part B, this is one of the only 2 times where if you chose to move to a Medicare supplement plan, also known as Medigap, most popular plan on that site is Plan G. Typically, those plans do medical underwriting. This is one of 2 periods where they do not ask you medical underwriting questions. You fill out the application, they do their process, and your health is not a factor at this time.
That's a very helpful thing, especially if people are not in great health, to have that guaranteed issue period.
That's right. I mean, you have it when it's your initial election period, you have guaranteed issue, and then it comes back again if you hold off on enrolling in Part B and then you're new to Part B.
Very good. Let's see. The other thing that you can look at during a special election period is if you're moving outside of your current service area, that will create another election period, and it'll allow you to change and add whoever your new providers are going to be within your new area that you have moved. Now, that is not going to give you the 8-month window that Efren was just talking about with the employer coverage. It will give you a 2-month window. Same goes for if you are, recently eligible for Medicaid. That would be another election period that's going to give you a 2-month window. So it is very important that if you have changes that are happening, whether it be change of employment, moving in the area, your finances have changed, those are all important reasons to contact your insurance broker that does specialize in Medicare so that they can go through each of those periods with you and let you know specifically what applies to you, what the timeframes are, to make sure that you are getting whatever you need to done within the time you have, so you're not missing that window. So next up, we're going to talk about the general election period. The general election period is for late enrollee. So those are the people who have missed their IEP. You have missed your SEP. That's where GEP comes in. So if that is you, listen up. The GEP runs from January 1st until March 31st every single year. That is when you have the opportunity to enroll into original Medicare. That's Medicare A and B. That's that hospital and doctor services thing that you have the opportunity to do. In that same time frame, from April 1st to June 30th is when you have to enroll into your Medicare Advantage or your Part D, which is your prescription drug. Now remember, if you take one of these plans, it is not going to become active until July of that year. So you are late in the enrollment from January to March, but the plans are not going to become active until July. Okay. Also, something to keep in mind, as a late enrollee, you are going to be paying penalties. That, again, can be if you did not have the premium-free Part A. It can be Part B, and it can be Part D. So adding all of those up can become quite costly. So again, it really is in your best interest to get things done in the original election periods that you have, whether that is an IEP or an SEP, so that you aren't getting penalized when you join during the GEP.
Okay. Next up is AEP, probably the
most talked about period, right?
Definitely most heard of. People hear about AEP, also known as Annual Enrollment Period or Annual Election Period. Commercials on TV, commercials on the radio. I've seen billboards on the highways. Everyone talks about it. This election period runs from October 15th to December 7th every year. This is one of the election periods that's written in stone. You can count on it. Thank you. This is one of the election periods that's written in stone. You can count on it every year, October 15th to December 7th. What is special about this election period? This election period is built and designed for people that are already in a Medicare plan. Anyone who is in a Medicare plan can make changes at this time. Give you some examples. If you're an original Medicare and you've decided that you want to move to Medicare Advantage, obviously you can do so during this time. You're in a Medicare Advantage plan and you would like to make some changes, maybe pick a different plan that you've heard of, we can help you with that. We can take a look at what are the other plans available and see what specifics you're looking for to find a plan that fits your needs better than what you currently have. You can also move to a supplement plan from either Medicare Advantage or original Medicare. Please note though, typically the supplement plans, Medigap or Medicare Supplement, they do medical underwriting, and this election period does not alleviate medical underwriting. So if you have some health issues and you're trying to move to a Medigap plan, it may be a problem. Okay?
Yep. So if you are wanting to get into a Medigap plan, you can join that 365 days a year. You do not need a special election period of any sort to get into a Medigap plan. The caveat is that if you're going into a supplemental plan, you have only 2 periods that are going to give you guaranteed issue. And that guaranteed issue, again, is saying, I am ready to join this plan. I have health problems, so I'm going to utilize this time to join, because if I wait and I postpone this down the road, they're going to look at all my health issues and they're going to say, what do you have going on? And they may or may not approve you. And if they don't approve you, then the only option you will have at that point is to go with an Advantage plan. So you want to look at your Medigap plans during the times that you're going to have guaranteed issue if you have health concerns, especially if you have health concerns. If you're not worried about it because you're in tip-top health, then you can move a little bit more fluidly than somebody who is going to have some health concerns.
Okay, so to recap, the only 2 times where you have guaranteed issue and a Medicare supplement will not look at your health history is when you're initially eligible for Medicare during your IEP, and during a special enrollment period when you've postponed enrolling into original Medicare A and B because you had credible coverage. Now you're choosing to join Medicare Parts A and B. You're new to Part B, gives you an 8-month window.
Right. So that big trigger being that you're new to Part B. So again, if you were using the other special election period that I spoke of earlier, which were, you've now become Medicaid eligible or you've moved out of the plan, those do not trigger a guaranteed issue. So being new to Part B is that trigger.
Okay. Good information. Okay, so as you can see, it's in your best interest to consult an insurance broker that specializes in Medicare, so we can help you to review your specific situation, find a plan that fits your needs. We're truly a sounding board for you to bounce your questions off of. We'll give you our input, tell you how we see it, but ultimately the decision is yours.
Yeah, so feel free to call us or go on our website and make an appointment. And we're always here for you. Just reach out and ask us your questions. We will give you an unbiased answer of whatever your specific situation is.
Don't forget to like this video. Please subscribe to our channel. And if you know anyone that would benefit from this information, please pass on the video to them. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you for your time.